So, I wanted to give my hot take on a topic that I've seen floating around the internet a lot lately, and it's should you charge your children rent? And I think that there's a distinction that you have to immediately make, and one is adult children, and the other is children still living in your home that are still going to school. And to me, that includes college as well. If your child is in school full time versus a complete adult who also has a full-time job, then those are two different things. So, first of all, if your child is at home and is still in school full time, whether that's high school or college, no, I do not believe in charging your children rent. I don't think it is a child's responsibility to take on the parent's burden in any way, shape, or form. Now, that doesn't mean that they should not learn responsibility, but responsibility can be learned many different ways. First of all, kids should be participating in household labor. Right? They should be washing dishes. They should be doing their own laundry. They should be seeing a mess and taking care of it. They should be taking out trash. Maybe once they start working, that could be taking on one small bill. Maybe that's the water bill. Maybe that's their cell phone bill. Something small that teaches responsibility, but it should not be something as overwhelming for a child as to be responsible whether or not your household is running. That creates an amount of stress that children are just not ready for, nor should they be subjected to. Now, if your children are adults and they are working full time, then there's two different types of adults, right? There's the adult who's working really hard, who's gone to school, who's doing their thing, who's saving their money, who's being responsible, and then there's the bum. So if you've got a child who's home, who's doing their thing, who is making you proud and who's participating fully in the household, who is agreeable, who is doing well. I mean, why give them a burden? And there are so many parents who say, "Oh, I'm going to charge them rent and then I'm going to give it back to them when they leave." And even that I really don't agree with because my job as a parent is to teach my child to save their own money. I want them to open their own high yield savings account and I want them to see their own savings grow. I want them to have their Roth IRA and I want them to see their contributions growing. I think that teaches your child more about being financially responsible than telling them you're taking their money from them to hold it for them as if they're incapable of taking care of that themselves. So I think there's a catch-22 there. It sounds good, but in reality, you're not teaching them to do it for themselves. And then ultimately, if you've got a bum in your house, if you have a child, an adult child, I'm talking over 21, who decided maybe they didn't want to go to school or maybe they went and dropped out, has decided that they don't want to work or maybe they don't want to work full time, maybe they're just working a part-time job just to make it seem like they're really busy, but the majority of their time they're on the internet playing video games and chilling and hanging out and doing a whole lot of nothing. Absolutely not. That's the child that you need to motivate to get off their behind and do something. And I'm going to tell you step one to that motivation is turn off that Wi-Fi. If that child does not have internet, you're not going to want to be home. You might as well be at work. Your work probably has Wi-Fi. So you might as well go there and make some money instead of sitting home on your parents' couch or in your bed all day, or maybe working like 20 hours a week, because that's not going to happen. A child like that needs to be motivated that the real world outside that front door is never going to treat them as nice as mommy and daddy do. So you need to start making them a little bit more uncomfortable with just chilling and doing the bare minimum because ultimately they're wasting away the best years of their life that they have to grow and become something for the future. Your 20s are your time to figure it out, but it's also your time to grind because you're never going to have as much energy or as much ability to do things as you do in your 20s. Like, will you be able to go out until midnight and then wake up at 5 a.m. and still go to work and function properly? You try to do that now at 48, I'm never leaving my house at 9 o'clock at night to come home at 2 a.m. to go to work the next day. Like it's absolutely not happening. It's just not in my physical capability anymore. And I think for the most of us, once you pass about 35, like you want to be home at 8 o'clock in your pajamas and you need your full 8 hours rest or you're not going to make it the next day. So your 20s are the only time in your life when you can do the most because you have so much energy, you have so much physicality, take advantage of those years. And if your child is not taking advantage of them, you need to gently boot them in the behind and push them towards, finding that independence. And that means making the home less comfortable. And that could mean charging them rent. I mean, I don't see how they're going to pay it if they're not even working full time. But if you don't set strict boundaries with your kids about what's going to be permissible in the home, and once they're an adult, then they're going to push those boundaries because they're comfortable. So make your adult kids that are bums at home uncomfortable. Turn off that Wi-Fi and thank me later.